All right, what's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this December 30th, 2023 date, about 12:32 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity shows a 3.4 over here across the region. Around Nepal, it looks like, around the Himalayas. We did see some movement overnight in the larger scale department, including a 6.3 here across the New Guinea area. First, looking at a live image here, live video of Iceland around the region where we've seen our most recent eruption activity there, northeast of Grindavik. Can't see a whole lot out there. Looks like some snow and quite a few clouds out there today. Looking at the last earthquake activity here in 12 hours, shows about 63 earthquakes in general across the main region here. We are noticing a little seismic uptick here across the magma intrusion area. This is a region of concern, and of course the region that has seen the most recent fissure activity here just to the north along this area, north of Hagafell, and just off of the Slingarfell region to the east. That is where we've seen our most recent fissure activity. It lasted for a day or so, and kind of watching GPS conditions out here remain elevated. And it is showing some elevated movement and further earthquake activity across the entire magma intrusion region. And that includes areas here across Grindavik, where we did see a 2.1 kicking up here. So we got to watch this pretty closely. This thing is recharging, refueling. It still remains highly elevated here across the Svart-Singi area. Let me show you guys the most recent map here in terms of GPS displacement. Vertical uplift, so to speak. The bottom one here is going to show the uptick. Now right here is when we've seen our last eruption, a little drop from a previously higher elevated area of inflation here. We are now at it looks like appear to be equal to the period right before the eruption there earlier on the 18th of December. So that could mean that we could possibly be seeing things really kick up here very soon. And the key indicator is watching these earthquakes. A couple different regions. Obviously, it looks like things are. I've had to pick a spot here along this magma intrusion area. It looks like this area around the old fissure activity that we've seen earlier this month, showing the highest likelihood of an area to watch in terms of new fissure development or maybe some reactivation in or around this area of the previous fissure activity there. But can't let our guard down. Grindavik area definitely showing, unfortunately, some earthquake activity as well down here. And that 2.1 definitely could be a sign that magma is rolling around underneath this area. We'll keep an eye on it. Definitely will watch this pretty closely. Latest update from the Icelandic Meteorological Office here. I believe it's from yesterday still. The 29th, they just kind of chatted about the probability of a new eruption, and they still believe that the area of concern is going to be northeast of the Hagafell area. Let me go back here and go to a little bit bigger view. Which is in this zone right here, zone 3. There's our lava coverage here from our most recent eruption activity there, from those a couple fissures that opened up. Notice that it was channeling down here, the lava flow, so to speak, towards the Hagafell area. Grindavik, of course, sits down here in the orange zone. The most hazardous zone right now, of course, is going to be the red area, which is roughly right outside of the Grindavik area into the magma intrusion zone, which is zone 2, zone 3. But still can't count out the Grindavik area seeing potential activity. Zone 4, which is Grindavik, shows earthquakes, fractures, gas pollution, fault movements, and lava flow. Now, it's possible, though, that we still could see this activity, fissure activity, happen down here, although they're thinking it's less likely. They don't even include the eruptive fissure activity there in zone 4. That is confined to zone 3, which is up here, Hagafell. That's kind of where we're seeing some of the earthquake activity right now, and then also zone 2 up here. So we'll continue to watch this and report back on any major changes should they happen, right? Either way, earthquake activity, a key indicator of what to watch for prior to any type of fissure activity opening up. And that's similar to what we would see on around any volcano earthquake activity. Jumping out here to the big island of Hawaii, goodness, they've seen a lot of earthquake activity out here, mainly just south here of the summit region. A lot, 114 earthquakes, at least here on this map. I'm sure there may be more. Let's go ahead and double check the most recent updated information statement here from the HVO, Kīlauea Daily Update, put out today. As of this update, the volcano is not erupting. Over the past day, high rates of seismicity have been recorded in the southern summit region, extending from south of the crater southwest to the this little fault zone here. Now, seismicity in the upper east rift zone is moderate and low along the southwest rift zone. There is a possibility of seeing eruptive activity here in the near future with little or no warning, but the key indicator here, I believe, is earthquake activity, and we're seeing quite a bit. According to these folks here, roughly 350 earthquakes, mostly less than M2.5, have been occurring at depths of 1 to 3 kilometers. And that's that activity we're seeing and witnessing right here. Let me bring that back up. Just south of the crater area. They're showing 350 something. On this map, I only see 115. So looks like maybe they're not adding all the earthquakes on, right? Because this goes back the last 7 days and only 164. So they're not quite adding all the quakes on the map, but they're stating 350 earthquakes have occurred. Since yesterday. Goodness, crazy stuff. The earthquake rate of the current rate of earthquakes is slightly higher than what was seen in October during the unrest that accompanied the magma intrusion in this area. Earthquakes are continuing with slight variations in the rate and size in the region, and periods of increased, I think that's spelt wrong, or decreased numbers of shallow earthquakes can be expected to continue during repressurization of the summit magma reservoir. So it looks like that tilt meter here took a pretty good spike of inflation there yesterday. Obviously meaning that we're continuing to build magma levels below. Sulfur dioxide, SO2 gas emissions remain low for now. It is uncertain if this activity will lead to an eruption or another major intrusion of magma in the area. Currently there are no signs of imminent eruption, but hey, earthquake activity below a volcano, major inflation rates at a volcano, yeah, I would say that eruption could be happening here soon. Let's go ahead and check out the tilt meter across the Kīlauea volcano. That's, obviously another key indicator of watching for an eruption. It looks like we have taken a little downturn here since yesterday's elevated event. That was a pretty sharp rise here, down over the last, 24 hours, it looks like. This is the past 2 days. Let me check out the last 30 days here. We're still elevated. Notice these little charts here, this graph showing elevated events with a little bit of deflation followed up by higher inflation events here. Definitely continue to watch that. I don't know if we're at a breaking point yet, but it definitely could be possible here soon. Very shallow earthquake in the last hour, 0.9 over here across the southeast rift zone here. Most of the movement, of course, has been confined to this area. Not seeing a whole lot there around the lava lake area of Kīlauea volcano. It's possible we could see fissure activity open up south around the 1974 eruptive vents or within the vicinity of that area. Let me back out of here and check out a webcam or two, see what's going on out there today in that area. Well, there's a visual of it, the lava lake area, the summit region of Kīlauea volcano, where the last A couple eruptions have been confined, been filling up this lake quite nicely. It's got a lot more room for some further lava flows, right? But I'm not certain that this is going to be where it takes place. It's possible it could, but we could also see that take place south of this region as well, where all that earthquake activity is occurring. Either way, some volcanic gases out there around the edges and maybe in the center portion of that lava lake region. Again, we'll continue to watch that and report back on any major changes that take place out there with that volcano. There's our larger scale movement overnight. Well, early this morning, a couple hours ago, we've seen a 6.3 New Guinea area, very common out here. This region does see a lot of 6s and a lot of bigger earthquakes here in this region. Historical data since 1900 shows us that very nicely along this plate boundary. Major earthquake zone. That earthquake coming in about 39 kilometers deep or so. No tsunami statement. Most of the time when we see a tsunami potential, it's going to be much larger quakes than a 6.3. Did see some activity here across Solomon Islands in our quiet zone here recently. This earthquake coming in about 7 o'clock this morning, 5.2. Santa Cruz Islands did see a 5.1. You can kind of watch that trail of activity stretching across this region here, ultimately leading to our most recent earthquake activity, that 6.3. So kind of filling in that seismic gap here that's been quiet for a few days with some larger scale movement just to the west here on this plate boundary. Did see what's that, 3.4? Looks like another 3.4 coming into the Java Trench area. Did see a 5.6 here yesterday. It's kind of off the plate boundary, northern Sumatra region. Watch this area pretty closely because they get some big time earthquakes out here, and it's been a little while since we've seen any major movement here across this area. There's our most recent quake activity here on the globe. Looks like New Zealand, or at least the Kermadec Trench, seen a 3.1 down here. Let's go check out the GeoNet servers here real quick and see if we got anything to chat about in this area. Not seeing a whole lot of activity, at least on the week and above. That normally tells us that there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity out there. A little 2.8 down around Queenstown. 2.7 off the coast here of North Island. A couple other smaller quakes out there. 3.3 it looks like along the Kermadec Trench. 187 kilometers deep there for that earthquake. No felt reports, obviously, because it's a ways out there, no ways deep, and actually pretty small. All right, earthquake drums here across New Zealand. Let's go ahead and check these out real quick, see if we're missing anything. This looks like outside interference pattern. These are not earthquakes on a seismograph station whatsoever. It's not anything that is of natural earth-related type marks there on the graph. It looks like something's wrong with that network. But as far as earthquake activity out there, there's some more interference here on this station. As far as earthquake activity, I'm really not seeing it. Just some of those smaller quakes there. South Island area and the Kermadec Trench seeing a little bit of activity up here today. Backing out, looking at the bigger picture here, some movement in southern East Pacific rise from yesterday. Now we do have some newer activity here. Was this 5.3 here last night? I don't remember if it was or not when I did the update. That's back prior to the subduction zone. We have seen a little bit of earthquake activity here recently into the subduction zone. It looks like mainly around the northern edge here of the South Sandwich Trench recently. So that's a good key indicator of some stress building up out here. Maybe keep an eye on this for some larger scale movement. They do get some big earthquakes. Our last one here a couple years ago, the 8.1 that struck down here. Actually seen a series of large events out here. All right, let's go ahead and check out the states here real quick, see if we got anything major going on. One earthquake north of the border. This earthquake coming in 1 o'clock this morning for 3.2 north of Ottawa. Kind of an odd quake, but occasionally these things do pop up. One little small earthquake out in the South Carolina region here, 2.1. you know, I can pretty much say these are typical unless we see a whole bunch of swarming going on, but it's not abnormal to see an earthquake here or there, some up in Ohio, some in around Illinois. You know, it can happen. We do get these little earthquakes on occasion. Texas definitely seeing a lot of earthquake activity here today, mainly in a small little area out here in the oil fields. There's quite a few wastewater disposal ponds out here. That's going to be these little green ponds out there, and some pumping operations. Looks like that is a kind of a big time area today with earthquake activity. 3.5 the latest in this region, about 7 kilometers deep. Yellowstone National Park, not seeing anything showing up here, but I just want to verify. Not that I don't trust the USGS, I just do like to verify what they're stating. And we did see some earthquake activity yesterday. Looking at this map right here, Old Faithful, Pitchstone Plateau, this little spitter spatter event of earthquake activity in a very short amount of time span. Not for sure exactly where that was centered at. I don't believe the USGS is reporting any of that activity from yesterday. They'll probably get to it Monday, but definitely a handful of earthquakes there last night. Probably centered around, hard to say exactly, maybe the Grant Village area, where they are seeing, looks like a little bit more earthquake activity here in the last few hours as well. See these little spikes indicating some earthquake movement there across that area. Nothing big, no major swarm, no doom and gloom to chat about as far as Yellowstone activity goes for now. Pacific Northwest seeing a handful of earthquakes across the Cascades and outside Seattle, but really not looking at anything major going on there. And Southern California, well, Northern California is pretty quiet aside from the Clear Lake volcanic field area. This region does see quite a bit of earthquake activity here, and not uncommon. This is very typical to see earthquake activity out here in these hydrothermal fields, and that's exactly what these are. There's quite a few plants out here creating some energy, utilizing the heated surface or heated areas below the surface. A little swarm going on here outside of Reno. Look at this. Quite a bit of smaller earthquake activity here. Talking about 22 earthquakes or so. Looks like the majority of these kicked up yesterday. There is some fault systems that do run through the Reno Sparks area. Some very small ones, but they can see some larger scale earthquake activity as well here. So keep an eye on that region there. Little swarms can be an indicator of some larger scale movement taking place. Not all the time, but it can be some type of foreshock activity. 1.5 down here off of the San Gabriel fault zone. It looks like Southern California area. Handful of earthquakes as well north of the Garlock Fault Shear Zone, which is this area right here. Looks like a 3.5. Also seen a 3.3 here closer to the Ridgecrest area earlier this morning. Aside from that, smaller earthquake activity out here today. And the San Andreas Fault continues to sleep and remain quiet. That's a good thing. We don't want to wake it up. Alaska area, typical movement up here today. Always earthquake activity. For a total tally, it looks like, at least for the USGS, 334. But remember, this is only the USGS. On the Earthquake 3D globe that shows the EMSC, there's also some smaller earthquake activity that they report internationally. Shows a 5.5 coming in now to the area. Let me see what we got going on here on the globe. If they are working, are they online? Am I working? That's the question. Okay, I thought it was every time the internet freezes now, I think I'm getting shut down or the strings pulled, so to speak, on my live stream, which isn't good. All right, earthquake activity. Looks like they're having a little issue with their web page. I don't believe it's mine because it's pretty quick here on this end. Looks to be the EMSC here. I was wanting to see where that earthquake activity is. But yeah, they're having a little bit issues there with their page. Either way, it looks like this movement, hard to say exactly where that could be at, just outside of Italy area into the region over here. It could be potentially across this area, maybe the Bosnia area. So we'll check back on that here in a second. Further movement there across the Kīlauea volcano area. And by the way, if you're watching the live stream, the Hot Caves Hawaii station does pick up the majority of the earthquake activity there. Even some of these smaller ones do get picked up from that seismograph station. I'm gonna go check out the a couple of those seismograph stations there. I forgot to check earlier. This is a pretty cool page to use when it comes to observing volcanic activity and the instruments that monitor them. Seismograph stations here are going to be in the in these dark triangles. There's a lot of earthquake activity here. Look at that, goodness. This shows the last 12 hours. So got to remember, even some of these really small spikes are indeed earthquake movements. All these little ones right here as well. Definitely looks like this thing could be getting ready to get active here real soon. So we'll continue to check back on that. Let's go over and check out space weather here real quick. See if we got anything major to chat about. We do have a pretty large coronal hole here, 86, and a new member, 87 up here on the northern hemisphere of the sun. This has been in position of the Earth-facing side here for a couple days. Now, I'm not 100% certain if we're going to see any elevated auroras here in the coming days. It looks like they added maybe a 50% chance here on the 1st of 2024. Maybe some elevated KP index coming in. Not really expecting much, not even up to the G1 class storm category, but this here could amplify maybe some of the solar storming conditions up there across the polar regions, but not really expecting much here, folks. A flare threat looks to be 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 15, and obviously a lot less for the rest of the categories. A look at the sunspots out here, and the magnetogram image shows a continued decay of the majority of these sunspots, with not a whole lot left. Looking at the visible disk here, man, goodness, they're starting to disappear. I don't really think we have anything major going on out here on the eastern limb. A lot of times when we look at this UV ray filter, we can see potentially some active regions out here, but I'm really not seeing anything for now, but we'll continue to watch that. But all sunspots facing the Earth right now are relatively stable. Storm Prediction Center out here today. As far as any severe weather goes, next couple days look pretty quiet out here. We are getting a little bit of precipitation down in Southern California here today. We got, I don't know what we picked up last night or yesterday out here. I think we had about 1.5 inches for a total accumulation out here where I live outside of Chico. That storm system's going to move off and going to be quiet for a couple days out here as far as weather-wise goes. And our next storm system looks to be Tuesday into Wednesday time period. This one doesn't look as strong, but at least it's bringing in some precipitation here. And looks like another storm behind that as well. So the West Coast will remain active. There is much colder weather coming in. Got to watch that as we head into the middle of January. A lot of blue lines here, right? These contour lines indicating that that's a lot of cold air dipping down out of the north. So we'll watch this here. A lot of cold weather potential as we head into the middle of January. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Again, keep an eye. Big Island of Hawaii with Kīlauea Volcano really ramping up. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on today unless something major happens. Enjoy your weekend. It is Saturday. Goodness. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys back here later.